Hey there, welcome to the Haas Media Studio, and we are presently in the isolation booth that we have here at the studio. We have the main cutting floor, but we also have this nice isolation booth right here, which is very well designed. It's a pretty dead space, if you can kind of hear it a little bit, but it's pretty good and dead and doesn't really bring a lot to the picture. It doesn't hurt any of the vocals. It's a good place to do stuff. You might even do drums in here. You can actually set up a full kit in here if you needed to, if you didn't want to use the big room and have it isolated from everybody else. No problem. So this is our isolation booth. It has its own wall panel over here, so we can do 8 channels into preamps straight into from this room. So today I'm talking about vocals, and we can do vocals just as easily on the floor. Sometimes it's preferred to do that. There's a little more space for the vocalist. It's a little more aesthetically easier for the vocalist to work in. But a lot of times we're going to have a band out there and you're going to have a vocalist in here at the same time. Your session, you have a vocalist coming in, or you're the vocalist. The first order of business always is to decide on the right microphone. Now maybe you already have the right microphone in mind. Maybe you already have the right microphone. That person already owns their microphone that's perfect for them. Whatever. But what you usually have to do, and I do this every project, is I have to basically sort of listen to my vocalist and sort of make some judgment calls, and then line up a bunch of mics and do a microphone shootout. And you want to do this with your vocalist usually at a time when it's not really important to get a take or anything, where if you're on the clock or anything, you want to take a good 30 minutes to an hour to do this, to really sort of ascertain the right microphone. It's important. What I do, I set up the microphones and I put them out all in an area like this. And I put them into the preamps, and I do everything I can to get them leveled out at the same level, because some of these microphones are going to come at different levels. I have dynamic microphones, I have condenser microphones, and I have a one ribbon microphone. So we're going to sort of also find out, is there an advantage to using a dynamic microphone over a condenser microphone? Does the ribbon come into play? So there's all kinds of different possibilities here with these microphones. And I've selected well. I've selected a good group of mics, starting from the left to the right here. Good old 58, which most of you have probably seen folks singing on stage. This is the good stage mic. It's all-purpose. You can drive nails with it if you need to. You can use it. You can hurl it at people that are threatening you. It's a very good all-purpose microphone. It's great for live. We don't really use it so much in the studio, and let's find out why. Let's see if there's a reason why that is. I've got my AKG 414, which is a great all-purpose microphone. We've seen it before. It's kind of the vanilla mic, which it goes with everything. It's a good sort of go-to microphone. If you see this in the cabinet, it's probably going to be a good contender. Over here I've got the KM 184, which is not usually used for vocals, but let's find out why. It's really usually used more for acoustic instruments. It's got a lot of really great characteristics. Let's see what's up with it with the vocal, though, because maybe it's the greatest thing ever on my vocal, because I'm going to be the singer today. We're going to find out which of these microphones like me. So next up over here is the 4033, which is the cousin to the 4050 that we've seen earlier in some of our videos. A very similar microphone, kind of a warm microphone. It's a condenser. Then I got my good old Royer 121 ribbon. And it's going to be a figure 8, so that means it's going to be reading from the front, but it's also going to be reading from behind. So I might get a little tiny bit of room ambience, such as it is, on that. Probably not too much, but let's just find out why a ribbon might be a good choice for a vocal. Ribbons were used for very many years, actually, before condensers were perfected, and people were very happy with them. So let's see if that can work on the vocal as well. Then the good old RE20, which is a dynamic microphone, and some of you have probably seen this used in a bunch of, you see radio announcers using these a lot of times. They're good radio mics. They're pretty durable. And then right here, last but not least, our Neumann U87, which for all intents and purposes should wax the floor with the rest of these microphones, and should be it's the most expensive microphone of the group, so I would like to think this microphone is going to sound the best. But then again, I have certain characteristics to my voice. I have certain formats to my voice. I also use falsetto sometimes, and I like to also do very quiet stuff. So I have a couple of different elements of my voice that I'm going to test on these. I'm going to test my full voice. I'm going to test a little bit of falsetto to see if it gets some of the nice air qualities, my falsetto, and then I'm going to lean in and do a very low level, low thing to see if it gets good detail on the low end stuff of my voice. All these microphones are going to have different responses, and we're going to find out which is the best. Now we're going to try to use the same technique on all these microphones, which is I'm going to try to stay about a foot away from each of these microphones as I address them in kind, and I'm going to sing the exact same thing into each of these microphones in turn. And then I'll work my way around. And just to be on the safe side so I don't have to worry about my P's or plosives, I don't think I have any big P's or plosives in the line I'm going to sing, but just in case, I have this over here in case I need it. And these are always going to be good tools for you when you are doing vocals in the studio with vocalists. The pop filter, because yes, P's and B's will get you, and what they will do is they are plosives, and plosives cause these certain bursts of airs, b. These certain bursts of air go right at the microphone, and the microphone goes bleh. And it basically, when you look at it in Pro Tools, you'll just see this humongous, large wavelength. It's about 40, 50 hertz, and it's just a big, nasty mess. And we can get rid of that, actually, no problem. But let's try not to get it in the first place. So we'll use the pop filter, and we'll put the pop filter a little closer to my mouth, and I'm going to stay about a foot off of all of these. Now, if you don't have a pop filter, and you have a vocalist that's like singing Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers, or some stuff like that, and you got a big P problem, here's a little trick for you. This is a little Nashville trick. Take a pencil, have them take a pencil or their finger and put that right there on their lips, like so, kind of like that, right there in the lips, and that will break apart the P's and B's and move them on either side of your finger and direct them from the diaphragm of the microphone, and you won't get those as much. So, anyways, generally, when it comes to singing vocals, you're going to probably want your vocalist anywhere from about a foot to 2 feet from the mic, sometimes a little closer depending if it's very quiet, very intimate. But if it's full voice, full range, you're going to want to make sure your vocalist is good back a bit. You don't want any closer, because when we get closer to the microphones, we have what? Proximity effect, which means the closer to this microphone I'm going to get, the more low-end information is going to come out of the sound. So sometimes I want that. Sometimes we use that. The radio announcers that use these RE20s use it all the time. So I'm not really so much trying to get that so much, except for I'm going to test the proximity effect when I get in close and do my soft thing. I want to see if I get a little low-end information, plus I get clarity. So it's just a little triple test I'm doing here with a vocal. Last semester, I had the good pleasure of having Vinny Amico from Mo come down to the studio and do a session with me for, of all people, Snoop Dogg. And there's a tune called Don't Do the Crime If You Can't Do the Time, which you may be seeing on a television show at some point in the future. But it's based on the old Beretta cop show. Google Beretta if you haven't yet. If you like old 70s cop shows and you want to see some skanky stuff, check it out. You'll love it. So Snoop wasn't here, but they sent the tracks over, and Vinny was here. We did the drum tracks. And then I thought, well, let's just use that for our bass track for a vocal. And I'll sing a little Don't Do the Crime line, and I went ahead and just put a little bass and a little electric piano so I could have a guide. See, the other thing that you'd like to do if you're going to have a vocalist come in is you do want to make sure that you have some sort of a pitch reference. You never want to bring a vocalist in and just have them play the drums and the bass, unless it's a hip-hop thing, unless it doesn't really matter what the tuning is about. You're definitely going to want to have some sort of like a piano or even an organ, just something with a definite pitch bass that the singer can latch onto and find it. One other thing I need to mention about our setup today is that for our headphone setup, instead of using the red box, we are using the Avioms today. And the Avioms are cool because this gives us 16 channels of ability to mix our own headphone mixes. Yay! Isn't that good? This is really an important thing, because when it comes to recording, you really need to think about comfort. You need to make sure that the people that are recording have no obstacles towards getting their takes that they need to get. Unless, of course, you're just trying to make them very uncomfortable to get very uncomfortable music. Now, that's your prerogative as a producer. I'm not going to tell you what to do. But don't do that. Anyways, the Avioms are great because I can assign different tracks from the Pro Tools session, and I can just send them over to different tracks in here. Then I, as the vocalist, can come over here and pull up those tracks and make my own mix happen. It's awesome. And we get that, we just plug this into our Q input down here on the wall box. It's a Cat5 cable with an Ethernet plug, so it's very handy, very useful, very portable. So I'm ready for a session here. I'm ready to do this vocal thing. We're going to go in there, set it up, and then I'm going to come out here and do this. Okay, here's our vocal session, and I've already done a little bit of trimming here. I went ahead and just took each of the vocal tracks and just isolated each. I went ahead and separated it out, so now it's nice and neat. We can hear them in succession, see which ones we like, you know, learn something about which ones sound good. What I've done here is I've tried to get them as level as I can, but I decided also to use a little bit of an 1176 type plugin that you can get here, one above me here. I'm just using that to sort of level everything out because, as you can see, if you look at my performances here, it's pretty dynamic. It goes up and down here. I decided to smooth that out so we could really actually hear more of the character of the microphone rather than its ability to take SPLs. This also just sort of helps make everything sound pretty much the way it would normally sound, because I'm almost always going to compress a vocal just to narrow the dynamic range so it's really controllable in a mix. Unless it's a super dynamic vocal and I have to build an entire mix around that. Vocals are usually the most important thing, because if somebody's singing, you're going to listen to what they're singing. Here's our session. Let's listen to them in succession, and I'll call them as they go by. Click on these so you can see which one we're talking about. And if you look here in the comments section, you can see information about each microphone as it goes by, which ones are condensers, which ones are cardioids, which ones are ribbon. So once again, just to go through the list, I've got the Shure SM58, our basic good old-fashioned live microphone with the little ball on it, our AKJ 414, our Neumann KM184, our Audio-Technica 4033A, our Royer 121 ribbon, our EV RE20 dynamic, and our Neumann U87 condensers. We got 2 dynamics, 1 ribbon, and the rest are condensers. And let's see which ones we like. Watch our compressor up here and sort of see what it's doing as it goes by. First, we'll hear the SM58. I'll call them as they go by. Here we go.
Don't do the crime if you can't do the time. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Don't do it.
414.
Don't do the crime if you can't do the time. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Don't do it.
KM 184.
Don't do the crime if you can't do the time. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Don't do it.
Audio-Technica 4033.
Don't do the crime if you can't do the time. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Don't do it.
Royer 121 ribbon.
Don't do the crime if you can't do the time. Yeah, yeah. Don't do it.
EV RE20.
Don't do the crime if you can't do the time. Yeah, yeah. Don't do it.
Neumann U87.
Don't do the crime if you can't do the time. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Don't do it.
All right, so that's a pretty good comparison, and each one sounds pretty different when you really get down to it. You could actually make a case for almost any one of these, with the possible exception of the Royer, just because we just lose so much high end off that ribbon, but we do get so much warmth on that Royer 121. But the rest of these are all real contenders, and it just comes down to listening to, do you like it at the full voice register? Do you like it at the falsetto register? And do you like it the way it sounds when I lean in? There's 3 different pieces to that puzzle, and we want to sort of find a microphone that's going to sound good on me doing those 3 things, at least. Because those are 3 things I'm probably going to do, or any vocalist is going to do, is anything from that range of a low, very close to anything like that, low, to a high, full voice, full blast, to a falsetto. That covers all the bases for trying to figure out what we need from the microphone. That's our test for that. Hope you enjoyed it.